In this video, I'm going to share with you guys 7 things no one told me, 7 things no one warned me about Nairobi, Kenya, or just Kenya in general before visiting. I'm doing this for people who are visiting in the future, so when you arrive here, you're not caught off guard, you're not surprised, although some people like surprises. So if that's you, then I will click off this video. But if you want to hear a little bit more about some cultural aspects, some cultural items about this country, then this video is for you. Starting off with the first one, let me say that in some countries I've been to, and for those who have been traveling for a while, I'm sure you've been to places where cash is king. It's better to pay with physical currency. However, in Kenya, I noticed that it seems like the society is moving more, at least in Nairobi, is moving more towards a cashless system. One example of this is a service called M-Pesa, which M means mobile or mobile, depending on where you're from. And Pesa means money in Swahili. So in English, it's mobile money. This is a virtual banking service. It was created for people who didn't have access to financial services, banks, for whatever reason. It allows users to withdraw, deposit, transfer and send money, and also pay for goods and services with their mobile phone. I remember there was one time where I was in a grocery store and there was a lady checking out. And instead of pulling out her credit card, instead of pulling out cash, she pulled out her phone, started typing, and then showed the cashier, and then that was it. She took her bags and left. And I thought about it like, what was that? And then after a while, it hit me like, oh, okay, she probably used the service M-Pesa. It's very popular here, not only in Kenya, but just in Africa in general, and it's also in other continents. It just may be renamed to something else. And so I'm bringing this up because if you plan on spending an extended amount of time in Kenya, then you probably want to have the M-Pesa service. However, if you're just staying a few weeks, less than a month, then you can get by without it. I was just bringing it up for those who are planning to stay a little bit longer. And this also brings me to my next point, which is about the ride-sharing apps. They have Uber in Kenya. They may have some other ones as well. But one thing I want to point out is that I just got done talking about, cashless society, etc., etc. Well, not with these apps. It's best to pay with cash. There have been so many times I tried to use Uber by paying with a credit card, and most of the drivers declined, until I switched it to cash, and then now I'm able to have a ride in seconds. And also, when you're matched with a driver, many of them will call you. Well, I want to say all of them will call you. And I'm guessing it's to verify if you're paying with cash. So just keep that in mind. For this next one, let me go ahead and say I'm not a huge beer drinker. But from what I understand, I know back home in the US, a cold beer is usually preferable. And I'm saying this because if you're at a restaurant or a bar and you order a drink, a beer, you may want to verify with the bartender that, hey, I would like it ice cold, please. Now, I'm not saying no one drinks cold beers in Kenya. It's just that multiple restaurants ordering different types of drinks. I've been asked multiple times, would you like this warm or cold? And a Kenyan was telling me that, at least in Nairobi, because the weather can be a little chilly, that many people drink their beers at room temperature. And I'm bringing this up because if you're at a restaurant or at a bar and you order a drink, you may want to double check if they're going to bring it to you cold or at room temperature. Moving along, we have the Swahili culture. Before coming to this country, I thought Nairobi was the center, was the mecca of the Swahili influence and culture. But from what I've been told, it's not. It's actually along the coast, the coast of East Africa. I think that's where the Swahili influence originated. So you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you come to Kenya without going to the coast. Cities like Mombasa, which is the second largest one. Then you have another one, I think it's popular with a lot of expats and foreigners, Malindi. There's an island off the Kenyan coast called Lamu, and I wanted to visit it, but I misplanned it. I thought you were able to catch a ferry there easily, but you have to drive up to like Malindi and do some extra stuff, or you can fly there. But the flights only were during certain times, certain days, etc., etc. So I misplanned it. But the point I'm making is that Swahili culture that you hear about is prominent along the coast. It's in your face. And you should experience it if you haven't already. If anything, if you're short on time, let's say you're spending 7 days in Kenya, maybe passing through, see some safaris, I would recommend staying 2 to 3 days in Nairobi, mainly during the weekends, so you can experience the nightlife, the bars, go to the museums, hang out, and then during the weekdays, head along to the beaches. to get to experience that Swahilinism, if that's a word. Next up is safety, mainly in Nairobi, because that's where I spent most of my time. One thing I want to bring up is that I usually have a specific pattern that I stick to whenever I'm in a country, and that is stay in the nice areas. Pretty much simple. So for me, whenever I'm traveling through countries, the area I'm in usually feels pretty safe. And walking around, I didn't see anything that made me think otherwise. I didn't see a robbery, which I've seen in other countries. I didn't see anyone fighting. People were very friendly. I will say this, I found, and this might be an East African thing, but I found the people in Kenya very, I said friendly already, but very soft-spoken. There are many times where, I'll ask people for directions and I couldn't really understand them, not because of their accent or they were speaking Swahili, but because they weren't loud. Their voice was very, very soft, especially the women too. That really, I don't want to get off subject, but yeah, that turned me on a little bit. And you know what, since we're already here, let me touch on this. Growing up, I rarely heard Swahili spoken out and about. And I must say, after listening to it for about a couple of weeks, I think it's a very beautiful language. Usually, if I'm in a restaurant or if I'm on a train or some type of transportation and I hear people speaking Swahili, I'm usually just listening in, just eavesdropping, because the language, it has a ring to it. Whenever you hear like beautiful romantic language, I think for a lot of people, French will come to mind. Menage a trois, comment allez-vous, oui, oui. And then Spanish. Well, Spanish is more like a sexy language. Oh, que rico, papi, que rico, dámelo. Swahili definitely needs to be in that conversation. I don't know many Swahili words, so I can't really give an example. Other than Hakuna Matata, Habari, Mambo. That's pretty much, I only know like 3 words. But I just wanted to point that out. And I forgot where I was going with that. I think what I wanted to say, as far as the country, you'll be able to get by speaking English because it's widely spoken there. And last but not least, we have the AC, an air conditioner, temperature control for your room. There aren't going to be many, or at least I didn't see many online when I was looking on Airbnb, searching for an accommodation. However, I will say personally, I didn't need it, especially the time of year I went, which was in their winter. I would argue that you probably won't need it. Just make sure that you're not in a room where the window faces a brick wall and there's no ventilation. Apart from that, you should probably be fine with just a fan. For anybody who's been to other countries where the weather was pretty much temperate for the most part, Nairobi, Kenya is no different. With all that being said, these are just 7. I think I added one with the whole language stuff, but these are just 7 things no one told me, no one warned me before going to Kenya, specifically Nairobi, Kenya. I want to share them with you guys because I love doing it. I love going to places and kind of observing things and then explaining them to you all. So hopefully this video has helped some of you guys, especially the ones who are planning a visit here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And again, I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to catch you guys at the next video. Deuces.